Hello and welcome to the Machona podcast. And this week we are talking about hobbies. Yes, those hobbies. I decided to do this recording because I've been having a lot of conversations with people that I know, especially during the whole COVID-19 situation, because a lot of people are staying home, and so you ask them, what are your hobbies? And it's been interesting because a lot of people say they don't have any hobbies, and you're just left thinking, like, how do you exist? Like, what do you do, in your free time? And so yeah, it's fascinating to just find out what people do when life has come to a standstill. And so for me personally, I think my hobbies are noisy. Yeah, because most of the things that I do when I'm by myself would include music. And I learned how to make an instrumental, write lyrics, record myself, and try to edit. And so that has been something that I've been doing in my free time for quite a number of years. I think I may have started maybe somewhere around 2008 or 2007, somewhere there. I remember when my older brother got his first computer, and he I don't know where he found the music software, so yeah, I would try to learn how to make instrumentals when he's not around and that kind of thing, and I got hooked onto it. Some years down the line, and I can say I know my way around it, but not to the level that I would want to be at. So yeah, that takes a lot of time. But previously I also used to read quite a bit, and I remember there was an application that I had on the phone. I don't know how I found it, but it has I think it's still there, it's still around. It has a lot of free books that you can read off of it. I remember there was a time when I read a whole series of a book called I think it's Night Walkers. Yeah, it's a 9 book series, and I read about 7 of them in like 2 or 3 days, and that was all from the phone. And yeah, that was quite hectic, because I remember those were days when we were waiting for our exam results. I think that was either the grade 9 results or grade 12 in high school. But I would say I haven't really been reading much of late because of YouTube, and also like you just listen to audio tutorials, and yeah, so that has gone out of the window. So when I'm at home, it's usually me trying to work on music, or sometimes like web designing or something like that, or just there watching YouTube tutorials about something, because it's very hard when you have a mind that doesn't stay in one place for too long, so you're constantly finding other things interesting, and so you start learning to do something else. And yeah, so I need somebody to keep me in check. That much I admit. I need somebody who can constantly keep me in check and remind me to focus on what's more important, I guess. But anyways, so about hobbies, I was looking at an article on a website called thebalance.com, and the title of the article is Cheap and Fun Hobbies. So what it says is whether you're trying to save money or just trying to get out of the same old rut, it can be fun to find new and interesting ways to enjoy your downtime. The first step to getting out of the same boring routine is exploring all of the options available. The process of trying out some hobbies you might not otherwise have considered can be an enjoyable experience by itself. Say goodbye to watching TV like a zombie day in and day out, and say hello to having more fun, creativity, and wellness in your life. Consider 13 ideas to help you get started. So the first idea is hiking, walking, or biking. Now, I do understand this would not count in the current situation with the coronavirus, where you have been instructed to pretty much stay home. But anyways, I'll explain what it says and we can quickly skip over it. So it says you don't need to go to a gym to remain active. Instead, take a walk around your neighborhood or apartment complex. Seek out local trails that are for beginners and reconnect with nature. So yeah, this would be a good idea if you live maybe in the regional areas, like maybe you're at a farm or something like that. Then you can just walk around in that area, which is pretty much staying isolated and staying home pretty much. But for those who are staying home, you can probably walk around your yard as well. That pretty much helps. So yeah, hiking, walking, or biking. That's the first one. And it is pretty cheap because you would not be spending anything or not much unless you're going to a place specifically where they have those walking trails. But if you're just doing it in your local area, that's not that's very cheap. The second one is reading. Now, reading is a super cheap hobby that has a lot of benefits. It forces you to focus on something meaningful, can serve as an escape, and can spark creativity or inspiration. If you're reading non-fiction, you probably will learn something new. If you're not the page flipping type, try audiobooks. They are like podcasts and you can take them anywhere and listen to them on a walk. Yeah, so instead of buying books, try borrowing them from the library. Many libraries continue to expand their digital sections, so which means you can actually be able to borrow books online and you can read them from there. Like I was explaining earlier on, there are a lot of other free applications on the phone where you can actually read free books, which their libraries are pretty large, and you would be able to find most of the stuff that you're looking for. And with audiobooks, I do find audiobooks quite good as well, because you can be doing other tasks but still listening to what you actually want to hear or to get from the particular book. So yeah, that's something that can be tried, especially when you're staying at home. Most people would just be maybe laying on the couch or laying on the bed, but you're still keeping your mind busy. So the third one is writing. You write and write and write all throughout school and college, and when you graduate, it's the last thing you want to do. Unless your job involves writing reports, you probably don't think of it as a hobby. Keeping a journal can be good for the soul. If you find it hard to vent to people, or if it's difficult for you to walk through things out loud, writing down your thoughts can help you make sense of it. Beyond that, writing poetry, a short story, or even a novel can be an amazing creative journey to undertake. Yeah, I used to do this as well, writing, but mostly for me it was writing music. So I would write a bunch of songs, as you get the ideas, and then later on you'd start to see from the instrumentals that you've made, try to find one which goes with the lyrics that you wrote maybe even a year ago. And that was a good way of passing time and also relieving stress for me personally. Now, writing journals, that has not been my thing, to be honest with you, because Yeah, I had a funny experience when I was growing up. I think might have been in grade 7, maybe. Yeah. So I had one of our cousins had visited, and as young guys, then we talk about our crushes and that sort, and so I don't know how we got to that point, but it was like, oh, let's see if we were to write her a letter, how would you write? And so we were writing, like bunch of letters and reading them to each other, and it was just the fun that we had. I know it's weird. But yeah, after he had left and all that, and I think maybe a year had passed on even, for some reason my sister-in-law found that one of those pieces of papers, and yeah. So I'm coming back from school, and yeah, she's like, oh, there's something I found in your room. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what could that be? And then she goes and opens this letter, and she reads it out. I'm like, oh no. And so yeah, that was embarrassing. And then yeah, she had this whole talk with me about dating and girls and stuff like that. Now, for me, because obviously, if you try to explain that, it was just something you're doing for fun, it would look like it's just, like you trying to hide the fact that maybe you had a crush on someone. And yeah, so that was an embarrassing moment, and I don't think even now I don't think I would ever like write journals for that simple fact. But a lot of people do, which is good in most cases, because it keeps a bit of history, and as we are unable to remember everything, so you can just go through the book, and it brings out special memories as well. But for me personally, that's just not for me. And writing short stories and poetry, I've always wanted to write poetry, like serious poetry, but whenever I start to write something, it always turns out into a song. So I don't know. I think I might need somebody to actually teach me on how to do that. And short stories, I remember there was a time when I actually thought I could start out writing a novel. Yes, I did. But yeah, I quickly got tired of writing, and so it went away. But I've been thinking about doing it with a dictation software, where you just get a microphone, you're talking, and it's actually typing for you. I think that's how I can do it properly, because I can just tell the story and it gets written. I think I would be able to do a better job that way. So yeah, the fourth one is cooking and baking. Spending some time in the kitchen can make some people miserable, but others thrive when they are experimenting with different ingredients to make the perfect dish. The best part about cooking or baking is that so many recipes, I don't know, I've always had issues pronouncing that word, are available online. You don't need a cookbook at all. You can choose to follow recipes or adapt ones to make them your own. The price is whatever you pay for the ingredients. And if gardening is a hobby you enjoy, you can source your own ingredients. So, the kitchen. Sometimes, I do get, like those little urges of being, like trying to cook up something and just experimenting, but in most cases, I don't know what I'm doing. And funny enough, I know my cooking is not the best, but I always enjoy my food more than anyone else's. That's just the honest opinion. My food always tastes better. I don't know, maybe it's because I put what I want in it, but yeah, I am my best customer. So, but yeah, a lot of people that I know enjoy, especially baking. A lot of people would bake, and yeah, they get pretty good at it. I've tried baking a few times, and it came out all right with instructions, but it's not something that I have tried to have a go at just by myself. So I don't know about you, but yeah, that's something to explore as well, especially when you're at home. The other one is playing games. Some board games might seem expensive up front, but the cost of games isn't that bad when you think about the use you get out of them. So the article goes on to list a number of prices for board games, but I won't get into that. Now, alternatively, many classic board games have online versions available for free or very little money that allows you to play with friends or family in other locations. This can be a great way to stay in touch with loved ones who live in other cities or states. Now, this is something that I do literally every day. I like to play Scrabble. So there's a game called Words with Friends that I have on the phone. I've been playing it, I think, since maybe 2013, and you can play it. It's played online, basically. It doesn't get much of your data, and it's also connected to Facebook, so you can see your Facebook friends who are playing the game as well, and you can invite them to play with you. It's interesting. It's got the chat feature as well, where you can chat with people across the world, and I have met quite a number of good friends from it. So that is enjoyable. But I've also come across chess. But I would admit, with chess, it's not good when you take a move and you have to wait for someone to play, and maybe they take an hour or two. It just sucks the fun out of it. But with Scrabble, I can definitely say that's fine, because if you have maybe 5 games running, you pretty much will be getting someone play maybe after 30 minutes or something, because obviously they're busy as well. The other, this is the 6th one, and this is volunteering. This, just as the first one, might not be ideal with the stay-at-home policy, but I'll still go through it as well, because it is an activity that a lot of people find to be enjoyable. I have not done it in a long time, but anyways, here is what the website says. Some might not consider volunteering a hobby, but it's certainly an activity people can enjoy in their spare time. It has a lot of benefits too. You feel good when you are able to give back, especially to a cause that matters to you. You also may get involved in a friendly community of volunteers and make new friends. Plus, you might be able to volunteer at a place where you would love to work, that's specifically run by volunteers. It's the next best thing to being employed there. The volunteering that I used to do was mostly at church, especially with maybe they have a project there that they need people to help out, and you'd go there because pretty much not doing anything at home anyways, and there were some nice people there as well, so you would get to work in an environment where because it's not an actual job that you're getting paid for, so everybody is more relaxed, and you get to have fun whilst you're doing it. And I think the most enjoyable ones were when I would volunteer to help out with the kids ministry. That's they would host maybe like children's camps. Those used to be quite enjoyable because you just get to play with kids pretty much half of the day, and that they used to run maybe for the whole week, so it was pretty much full time. So yeah, a lot of people do find this enjoyable, and some people would volunteer maybe to work at animal shelters or orphanages as well. And it is something that helps the mind and the soul as well, because you get to feel like you are actually giving back to the community, and you're you're doing something honorable with your life as well. So it is definitely something that you would like to explore when you're free to mingle with people, but it's not really something that you can do in this particular situation that we are going through. The seventh one is get artsy. Depending on the medium, most artistic hobbies can be done on the cheap, especially when you consider one-time investments pay off in the future. For example, you might need to buy some brushes, pencils, paper, and paint, but the equipment and the materials should last for a few months. You also could design graphics on the computer. There are a number of programs available for free, and Photoshop can be had for as little as $10 a month as of August 2019. You even could go back to basics and use adult coloring books to pass the time, or you can attend a free class at a craft store. Now with this one, getting artsy, I have taught myself how to use Photoshop a bit with the help of YouTube, obviously. So with all of that's all of the graphics that I've used for my music posters or my website. I have pretty much designed all of them myself because of that, and it's pretty fun as well, when you learn a new trick. And also the other thing is like with like the web designing as well, that's it gets pretty artistic at some point, because like you have to find the right theme for your content, and then you have to put your content in a way that people will be able to seamlessly go through your whole website without actually noticing that they are changing pages or whatever, and that's usually done by like the widgets or putting links in specific areas, and also the kind of images that you're putting there. Obviously you just don't get any image and just chuck it there. You have to first of all work around the image, make it look in sync with the rest of the stuff that you've put there. So that's definitely something to consider. I used to draw a bit when I was in high school, and I would usually compete with a friend of mine on we used to make little comic books, hand drawn. And in most cases, like you'd maybe get an idea of a movie that you watch, and so you draw a little comic, and like just put your own twist to it. And they used to be quite interesting, and a lot of like classmates would be interested in reading them, and go around the class and people are laughing about it. And so that used to be fun. I did that, I think, up to the time that I started playing around with music more, so that's how I gave up that part of my life. But it's definitely something that I did find interesting. And for some people who are quite artistic, you could get some brushes and start painting, or start crafting out something or from wood or whatever. It's really something that might help your mind, especially when you're staying at home. Then number eight is learning. You might not think of learning as a hobby, but the possibilities are endless here. You can choose to learn a new language or a new skill that you can put to use at work, or maybe there is a topic or specifically that you've always wanted to research. None of this has to involve formal study. You can follow your own path at your own pace. I like conspiracy. I'm that kind of person. I've watched a lot of conspiracy videos on YouTube, and that apart from learning a lot about like the political issues of the world. I have also ended up learning, a lot about other countries as well, because it's something that interests me, to find out how people live. And in the past few years, I have been mostly fascinated about the ages before technology, before people started to document things. How was the world like, that kind of thing, and how were those civilizations living, how were those civilizations able to build those megalithic structures that are still around this time. Somebody tells us it was built millions of years ago, or thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago, and it's still there up to now. And nowadays we rarely build something that lasts 100 years. So how were those people able to do it? That kind of stuff. So those are the things that I usually end up learning more. And so that's just me. But you could have some other things that interest you. So if you take some time to actually do a bit of learning, you'd find that it actually opens up your mind more, and you start to get even more interested in learning about other aspects of life, to be specific. So that's definitely something that can be explored in your free time as well. The other one, which is number 9, is camping. No, don't do it now. You should stay at home. But anyways, camping is a great hobby to pair with hiking, and it's fairly inexpensive. For complete beginners, a tent, sleeping bag, firewood, and fire starting materials are the basics to purchase. So of course you need to bring food unless you are fishing or hunting, but simple recipes often are all you need. Word of advice, please don't do it in winter. Yeah, I learned that the hard way. I remember in I think that was 2010 at the end of it, or 2011 at the beginning, when my parents had just gotten the farm at where they are currently living in Lumwana. We took a trip, the three of us, my dad, my younger brother, and myself, to go and build a shelter on the place where people can live when they get there. Now, the place has a stream around it, and so it gets very, very cold at night. You would find even dew in the morning on the grass and the leaves almost every night. And we went there, and because there was no shelter yet, so we literally just slept on the bare bush, and we obviously would make a huge fire around us before we slept. But by the time we were waking up, obviously the fire had already gone out, and the feet were cold, as in cold. So camping, especially in such areas, is not something that I would encourage in winter. Do it in summer when it's very hot, at least. But it is fun because you get to connect with nature as well. Like the only thing you can hear pretty much is birds making noise, and maybe somebody talking in a far distance. So it is good for clearing of your mind, and if you've got some things that you want to think about, it is a very good experience and a very good activity. 10 is playing music. Have you ever wanted to learn how to play the piano, guitar, violin, or just because band class is over doesn't mean you can't pick up an instrument and learn? You don't need a private tutor either, unless you learn better from having a mentor. Many tutorials for beginners are available online. So this one, I tried to learn piano some years back, and a friend of mine and I started to go for lessons. So that's how I learned how to read sheet music as well, how to read chords, and so it was pretty interesting. I think by then I learned how to play about 5 songs, but it definitely needs a lot of practice, and if you actually have the instrument with you, that it really helps. Otherwise you would just be going around in circles. But there are people who actually that I have seen who have learned to play an instrument probably within a month, but yeah, that's not for me. My fingers are very stiff, especially with guitar. I know how to hold a few chords, but that's as good as I can go. So yeah, playing music is it's quite good as well, and especially if you're able to make your own melodies, that's very good. And when you start to record yourself, it's very nice. You feel like you're doing something constructive. Exercising is a great hobby and habit to have. It will get you into better physical and mental shape than by sinking into the couch whilst snacking. You don't need a gym membership, but if you choose to get one, go for it. So yeah, exercising. Again, I used to do this some years back. We used to lift weights. Then we used to do it for bodybuilding, and it used to work. But I think the last time I did it, like seriously, I think that would have been 2007. But it definitely needs encouragement. If you have some partners to work with, that's good. They don't need to be with you physically, but sometimes we've got like video calls or just calls, normal voice calls that you can make and encourage each other. That really works well as well. So it's something that relieves stress and also keeps you in good shape as well, and also keeps you away from doing naughty stuff. So yeah, try it, go for it. Fostering animals. If you're not in the best financial position to adopt an animal, or if you don't want a super long-term commitment to one, fostering can be a good way to indulge in your love for all the things furry. You're helping to make a space in a shelter to socialize an animal and to give the animal a break from the stressful environment of a shelter. So yeah, this is something that you could actually take up. I know a lot of people who love animals, and some people would even go to the shelters to just play with the animals there. But if you have your own home and you don't mind, I think that's definitely something that you could go with. So a lot of people find comfort in actually being with animals because they have the view that animals are not judgmental as people would be, so they would rather spend time with an animal. And because especially with dogs are very affectionate, and so yeah, that relieves a lot of people. And that's definitely something that you might want to consider, especially when you're spending more time at home. The last one is decluttering. This is another one that might sound strange, but believe it or not, decluttering can become pretty addictive once you get into it. Some people have even created businesses around helping people declutter. As a bonus, this is actually a hobby that might pay you, since you may decide to get rid of some things that others will pay for. Another added bonus, this creates space in your house. So if you've been thinking of buying a storage garage or upgrading your house, you might not need to do so once you declutter. So people like me can be hoarders at some point. You want to throw something away, and the first thing that comes to your mind is, what if I need it in the future? And so yeah, you just keep it somewhere and keep thinking you're gonna have need for it, but usually that need never comes because you get something that's similar but better. And at the end of the day, you find that you've got boxes full of stuff that you don't need, and now you have to get rid of them. Now, in our society or in our environment at the moment, obviously, you don't want to throw anything away because you spent some good money on it. So, one of the fun things is Facebook, like advertising something for sale on Facebook. Now, I know I've been advertising quite a few things. I've got some old graphics cards, and I've got some other gadgets as well that I would want to sell, but the people here don't look like they have any use for them. I don't know why, but elsewhere I think they would have gone already, because I just don't know. People don't really, they're just looking for phones. So that decluttering is quite good as well, and it also makes you feel like you've spent your day well when the place that you wanted to clean looks sparkling afterwards. So that's and I would also encourage you to take this time that you're spending home to actually look at or finally clean the places that you've always wanted to, and see where you can get those things. You never know, you might find something that might be worth quite a bit of money when you sell it. So the conclusion is finding inspiration. If none of these hobbies speak to you, look to your friends and family for ideas. Do any of them have interesting hobbies you want to learn more about? Ask them about it, and they might help you bring down the cost by letting you borrow certain things or letting you partake in their hobbies with them. Look at your life, look at what interests you, look at the things that you might find to be, stress relieving, or, something that just makes your mind work, and give it a try. If it doesn't work, you have got nothing to lose. You simply would just find something else. The fact that you are spending pretty much your whole day at home means you don't have anything to lose, really. As I know some people would say, those are a few minutes of my life that I will never regain. But come on, staying on the couch watching movies is also time that you're never gonna regain anyways. So explore and see if you find something interesting. I know this has been quite long. I thought it would actually maybe end at 20 minutes, but here we are. So once again, thank you for joining me, and we'll catch you next week or next weekend, hopefully. But remember to stay safe. Remember to wash your hands, and when you go out, please use your face masks. And also, not just using the face masks, but avoid physical contact with people that you meet on the streets. This will greatly help us in fighting the coronavirus or the COVID-19 moving forward. So thank you, and enjoy your week. We'll catch you on the other side.